everybody, this is Natalie and welcome to Tea and Talk, and today I am joined by a lovely guest speaker, Colleen Jonkers, and she will be sharing with us the red flags of abuse in relationships, and she'll talk to us about relationship wellness. So welcome, Colleen.
Hi, thanks, Nat.
Now, I guess what we have to first talk to people about is why we're doing this video, right? And I guess you and I got together and we had a conversation about our previous relationships and found that there were quite a few similarities in terms of what you went through in your relationship and what I went through in some of my relationships. And I guess, you know, this video is really to just help people understand that there is help out there, there is hope out there, and to it's okay to talk about it. And that's what the series is about, is to get people talking about the things that's stopping them from moving forward in their life, to have healthy and really, really good relationship. You know, when we talked about it over tea the other day, we were talking about what was the one thing that was really, really crazy, or that happened in our relationships that was really crazy. And I remember us talking about the the car chase. So would you like to tell people a little bit more about the car chase?
Sure. And I'll point out that you're the only other person I've ever met that has been in a car chase. As crazy as it sounds, I've been in a car chase. I was pulling out of my dead-end road where I used to live onto the highway. I saw him approaching and I just had this sinking feeling. I just like this uh-oh kind of feeling. I just could sense that something was about to happen. I turned left and I just continued driving. And he started following me. And, you know, the next thing is I'm being pursued in a car chase. So, you know, there were flashing lights and, you know, we were going through back forestry roads. In the end, I didn't really know what to do other than just to keep driving, and I drove straight to the police station. And by the time I reached the police station, he had pulled out and left.
It's scary when that happens, and it was so interesting that we had that same story to share. And you know, what happened with me was very similar. We ended up having an argument, and I got in my car and I was driving, and the next minute I just looked in my rearview mirror, and my boyfriend at the time was chasing me, and he had this red car, and we literally were driving so fast. And I just remember these buildings going past and then driving into an area that was open. There was nothing then, ducking and diving in and out of roads, and it was just insane. And I remember feeling this adrenaline surge going through me, and I was terrified because I was really scared that he was going to catch me, and then thought, what is going to happen? I ended up going into a road where I couldn't go any further. I had to stop and got out of my car, walked up to him, and had every intention of standing up for myself. And I just said to him, "Don't you dare touch me." And he just stood there and we stared at each other, and it was the most terrifying moment. And I turned around and got into my car and drove away, and he didn't follow me after that. At that point, I didn't understand that that was a form of abuse. It was a form of control, right? It felt like I was in a movie.
That's exactly how, when I look back at my situation, that's how I see it as well. You know, and I've had friends and family sort of say the same thing to me, and I even felt like I was living a nightmare.
And it's not just always physical abuse, there's verbal abuse, you know, there's control in terms of silence, that your partner might be not talking to you, and that's a form of control. So what was the one thing that got you through your day?
Well, I found when I was really at my lowest, the one thing that got me through was gratitude. And this is going back years before I even realised that gratitude is a thing. But I just grabbed a little notebook, and every day I would try and write in, you know, one thing that I was grateful for. And I remember on this one particular day, the only thing I could write down was that I was grateful for hearing the birds singing outside my bedroom window. I was living a nightmare, and all I could hold on to day were birds. But you hold on to what you can. And so the one thing for me was gratitude.
That's amazing. And, you know, bringing gratefulness into your life in so many ways and forms can help you get out of that dark place that you're in. And, you know, if that's all that you could hold on to in that moment, that's beautiful, right? One thing that really got me through the day as well, and just to give you a little bit of background, so I was in a relationship where I felt that I was in several relationships actually. One where I felt that I was controlled. I had a boyfriend that basically told me what to wear, took me to the shops and bought me clothing. These really kind of silk shirts, really loud silk shirts and scarves, and it was not at all who I was. And then and the other relationship that I was in was this one that had the car chase. And within this relationship, there was a lot of kind of control in terms of there was a lot of arguments happening. He was always right. I wasn't able to really voice my opinion. And whatever I said, he twisted all my words. And at that point, whenever something like that happened, the thing that helped me was to just go to the gym. I just ran it out. I just made sure that I cleared it out of my system. And it was my way of just letting go, because I knew that if I was holding on to that anger that it created within me, that it would just get worse and worse and worse. And I guess, you know, a lot of people or people in relationships, and I'm not just talking about men, but also women, they thrive on that control within the relationship, right?
I guess having a really good support network was another key to being able to leave. Just having people to bounce ideas off, just to support me emotionally as well. Even physical support for that matter. I used to have family hiding out on my back deck, peeking through the windows to make sure that I was safe. That was a comfort to me. I guess there are so many different forms of healing, but I guess just trying to find what works for you. So for me, there was the gratitude, there was having a great support network around me. They both really helped.
Yeah, and that's great. And we often forget when we're in a relationship, we forget that we have that support network, right? And because one of the things is you feel isolated, or within your mind, you might feel that you are isolated because that person, your partner, your husband or your wife, make you believe that you don't have a support network, right? And you have almost this numb feeling, and you feel like you can't make any decisions for yourself. And I guess it comes down to we talked, you know, about self-worth, just boosting your self-worth and really feeling like a person again, and going to the people that love you, like your family or really, really close friends that have your best interests at heart. That helps to boost your self-worth, and it just creates this really, really beautiful energy around you, so that you have the strength to be able to make good decisions or move out of that relationship. And if it's not good for you, you'll feel it. You'll energetically feel that the relationship's not good for you. So I guess that brings us to the red flags of abuse. So if you maybe want to talk about a few more red flags of abuse to help people understand what they need to look out for, because like I said, often you feel numb and you don't see, you know, what's happening.
Okay. Well, we've touched on isolation. So that actually is one of the forms of abuse, is isolation. And that can happen in various ways. One way would be keeping somebody from their friends or family. So that's essentially driving a wedge there, which is reducing your own power in a way, because it's breaking down your support system. So isolation is one. Threats is another one. So whether that's threats towards yourself or your friends, your family, your animals, your pets, whether it's threats towards possessions or things that you hold dear. It could even be threats that they will leave you, or suicide threats that they will commit suicide if you leave them. That's another threat. So then you've also got someone's behaviour that you can look at, volatile behaviour. You know, you've heard the term walking on eggshells. If you're ever sort of feeling unsure around people and you never know what kind of mood they're going to be in, really changeable behaviour, that's one to look out for. And in my opinion, that's also a form of control. They're using their moods and their behaviour to try and, I guess, keep you on edge so that you're feeling constantly unsure. Another one is sexual abuse. So, I mean, that can go so far as rape to even, you know, making you feel as if you're unable to perform or satisfy them. Really, it's a reflection back on them, and they're using that as a form of abuse against you. So, yeah, there are so many forms, and I guess unless you're aware of them and able to name them, you don't really know what to look out for. And that's why I think this program is really invaluable. Really, you've just got to be empowered and be aware. Two other forms that just come to mind. One would be communication. Again, there's a continuum there. So you've got sort of harassing somebody to the point where you're texting them 19, 20 times a day. On the flip side, you're giving someone a cold shoulder, or you're playing silly games and, you know, not replying and things like that, just making them feel really unsure. That's a form of manipulation and control. And the other form, obviously, is physical abuse. So, you know, you've got the physical, which is easy to read, it's easy to spot and see, and then many forms of emotional abuse, which are just as damaging and destroying, if not more, but they're much harder to spot.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's so many, and it's just, like you said, to be aware of when something doesn't feel right for you. When something doesn't feel right, your intuition is so strong. Listen to your gut feel. It probably isn't right, right? And if you feel uncomfortable at any point, or you know, they make you feel less than what you are, then seek help. Ask for help. There's always help out there. And I think with the awareness around abusive relationships or wellness within the relationship is being raised so much, and there is definitely groups out there that people can go to, like I said, family support. But if you feel like this is probably not something that you can talk to your family about, Colleen, where do people go? What do they do if they don't want to go to their family and friends and talk about that?
Well, you can go to, you know, if you belong to sports groups, you can approach somebody trustworthy within your sports group. Could be church groups, police, women's refuge, youth line. You know, go to your doctor. Just somebody trustworthy that you feel you can approach and talk to.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, teachers, lecturers, your boss at work. You'd be surprised. Most people have a good heart and they want to help. So if they can't help you themselves, they can help you find somebody who can.
Yeah, exactly. So there are always avenues for people to explore, definitely. And I guess that, you know, people in abusive relationships feel like there's no hope sometimes. You know, they're hoping, because you kind of get invested in a relationship if you have children with that person, or if you've been in that relationship for a very long time and you've bought a house together. And there's a lot of things that influence your decisions around whether you want to stay or whether you want to go. And but the answer here is yes, it's great to hope, but if it doesn't, like I say, if it doesn't feel right for you, then start exploring the different avenues that you can go. And perhaps it's just you know, you need to communicate with that person and tell them how you feel as well. Because sometimes when you're in an abusive relationship and it's verbal abuse, you take back some of your power by actually saying, you know what, that's not true. And I don't believe you, because I know that I haven't done it this way or I haven't done it that way. So you empower yourself and you take back your power by actually speaking up, speaking your truth, right?
If you jump onto the Sophie Elliott website, there's actually a link to a questionnaire where you can sit and reflect on your current relationship, or perhaps on what you want a relationship to look like. And so basically you go through this checklist and it's a quick snapshot into how healthy your relationship is, basically. So that's a useful tool as well if you've got doubts and if you're wondering. But as you were saying before, Nat, if it doesn't feel right, it's usually not.
Yeah, definitely. And, as I said, to just write down the positives and the negatives in your relationship. Write down the things that you enjoy and the things that you don't enjoy, and then compare the list. And clearly, if the negative side of things is a long list, then you have to start questioning yourself, well, actually, is this good for me, right? Am I doing myself a favor staying in this relationship? Or perhaps by having a conversation with someone about it, they can help me, come to maybe a different answer, or perhaps we can go for counseling, and then if you've explored all avenues, and if your partner and your husband or your wife is still not actually being supportive within your relationship, then you have to start thinking about what can you do to move outside of that relationship.
Yeah, I've always maintained that actions speak louder than words. So to approach somebody and you've got these issues that you want to nut out and talk about, if it's falling on deaf ears, I'd take note of that. It's a reflection of, I guess, their respect and their feelings towards you, really, if they don't take that on board and listen.
Yeah, and I remember my dad always saying, a leopard never changes his spots or her spots, right? And yes, it's very true, because often those people don't change their ways. They promise and they say, I will change, I'll be better. They buy you flowers, they maybe buy you rings or jewelry or whatever, and they say, I'm so sorry, I won't do this again. And then the next day or maybe a week later, it happens again, right? However, there's also the other side of things. You have to think about perhaps your partner or your wife or your husband, and I deal with this a lot, have things that they're dealing with in their life that needs healing. For instance, it could be that they've had a traumatic childhood and that they were abused as a child or traumatized as a child. And so the pattern and habits that they've created as a child or in their younger years have been pulled through to their adult life. It doesn't excuse what they're doing right now. It doesn't, it doesn't excuse the fact that they are being nasty to you or treating you in that way. But sometimes when we understand where a person's coming from and understand their history, we know how to approach things or how to solve problems so much better. So when you go online, there is a lot of information about abusive relationships or wellness within relationships, and the things to look out for in these videos and things that you can watch as well. So there's free information out there. And I guess the main thing is for us to educate ourselves around, relationship abuse or wellness within relationships as such. And I know that's something that certainly helped you at the time that you were in that relationship, that you educated yourself around, what's going on, and that helped you to move through or get out of that relationship as well.
Yeah, it did. It did help. It did really help. I think being educated is also really validating, because you know that it's not just you. And I guess it helps you sort of navigate the process of separating from that relationship, which can be tricky also. So yeah, I found educating myself to be extremely empowering. And that's one of the reasons I love going into high schools with the Sophie Elliott Foundation alongside the police. It's the sense of empowering people with knowledge, really, and knowing that, with having that knowledge, they're less likely to make mistakes.
Yeah.
And they're able to form decisions.
Yeah, definitely. And I guess, it's really, really important for us to teach our children about this stuff. And I mean, I'm not saying when they're 4 years old, teach them, but really high schools, it's a really good platform, and universities, especially as well, for people like you, speakers like you, to go and tell young women and young men about, what the things that they need to look out for, and give them tools to help empower them in relationships, and also to check themselves and to see, what is it that I'm doing? Am I actually veering towards that kind of behavior with my girlfriend or my boyfriend? And it's important that we self-check ourselves as well, and be very aware of how we're treating each other within our relationship as well. So is there anything else that you would like to add to help people with relationship wellness?
I guess another thing would just be, when somebody shows you who they are, believe them. I generally try to live by that now. Often it's hard to see those things, especially at the beginning of a relationship when everything seems rosy, but it's those little things that just niggle at you. Pay attention to them. They're there for a reason. It's called your intuition. Educate yourself, read up on different forms of abuse, jump onto the Sophie Elliott Foundation website, have a squiz at that, have a go at the relationship evaluation form. There's a link there. Come along to workshops. I've just come back from Otago Uni, and I was doing a workshop down there, which was super interesting, cool bunch of people. I'm running quite a few up here in Auckland as well. Just try and educate yourselves, and if you've got teenagers, keep them educated too. Be an active bystander is another thing which we teach. If you see that somebody's being abused, just step up and try and talk to them about it. Hey, are you okay? It's a simple question.
Yeah, that's great. And it's okay not to be okay, right? And notice that you're feeling those feelings. And I guess, when I've got clients coming in for healing, they might have been through trauma, and it absolutely can heal. It might take time. You might need different modalities to heal. You might just need a holiday, just a break away from your normal life, or walks on the beach, or meditation that you can do. There's lots of different things that you can do, and or a daily spiritual practice. And then there's obviously energy healing, which is my field, where you can come in and heal the trauma of relationship abuse. And there's so many different layers to abuse, and it goes and sits in your cell memory. We don't just have our physical body that we have to worry about, we have our spiritual body as well. And so within all the different layers of our subtle bodies, energetic bodies, these memories or these lessons or these things that we go through go and sit in our energetic body. And if it doesn't clear, it can manifest as ailments, and it can manifest as depression and anxiety. And it's better to let go of that and release it. And definitely through energy healing, which is one of my modalities that I use, we can help you shift that and help you feel better, help you feel more balanced, so that you can make the right decisions and you can make good choices for yourself and ultimately live a happy, fulfilled life. So thank you so much, Carleen. I think that's a really, really tricky topic to talk about, and a lot of people don't want to talk about it, but that's why I've created Tea and Talk, so that we bring these things out in the open and allow people to listen to our conversations, and hopefully they resonate with our stories, or they, go, oh yes, I've been through that, and look at these people, they've gone through it, and it's okay. It's okay for me to feel like this, because healing can happen. Okay, there's definitely a way out, and there's definitely hope at the end of at the end of the dark tunnel as such. So thank you so much for being my guest speaker. I really appreciate you coming on here. If you want to find out more about what Carleen is up to, she's got plenty of workshops coming up, and I'll put her website or her Facebook page at the end of this video, and you're welcome to jump onto there. And if you want to find out more about relationships and how you can heal relationships as such through energy healing or simply through coaching, please feel free to get in touch with me as well, and I'll put my link at the end of this video. Have a wonderful day. Thank you so much, Carleen.
Thanks, Nat.
Okay, speak soon. Take care. Bye-bye.